Support for this podcast comes from the St. Alphonsus Neuroscience Institute, offering technology to provide treatment for neurological, neurosurgical, and neurointerventional conditions. This includes a dedicated neurotrauma ICU for critical care of the brain or spine and a 24/7 stroke team. More at stalphonsus.org. Hey, podcast listeners, want to stay informed without the daily email overload? Sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Every Tuesday morning, we bring you the top local stories, plus highlights from Idaho Matters and the Mountain West News Bureau, all in one easy read. Stay in the know without the clutter. Subscribe now at boisestatepublicradio.org.
From Boise State Public Radio, this is The Connector. It's Idaho's Daily News. Good morning. I'm George Prentice. There was a protest on the steps of the Idaho Capitol last night. It was all about ICE. We have that story, plus a Venezuelan who made her way to the Mountain West. We have her perspective on the turmoil in her home country. It is Friday, and it's the 9th of January. Here we go with today's stories. Governor Brad Little and other top Republicans continue to say Idaho is in a good economic position. That's ahead of next week's start to the 2026 legislative session, despite a projected budget deficit. James Dawson reports.
The latest forecast shows Idaho ending the fiscal year about $40 million in the red. That could balloon to at least $475 million, depending on how the state conforms with federal tax changes passed by Congress last year. House Democratic leader Alana Rebel said Thursday she's not optimistic about Idaho's economic outlook.
We already have serious problems and fallout from the cuts we've already made, and those cuts are going to get a lot more drastic given the severe revenue shortfalls we're looking at.
House Speaker Mike Moyle downplayed those concerns.
The state of Idaho is in good shape. It's going to be good. We're all going to do well. We'll do our best to protect education in those important budgets, but at the same time, we'll make those needed adjustments to balance the budget.
While Governor Brad Little wants to fully conform to those tax changes, Moyle says the legislature might pick and choose to avoid a significant revenue hit. Lawmakers will officially reconvene in Boise on Monday. James Dawson, Boise State Public Radio News.
On the steps of the Idaho Capitol last evening, a protest, specifically regarding public safety and accountability. That in the shadow of an immigration enforcement agent firing 3 shots into a vehicle, killing a Minneapolis woman.
All Americans have the right to feel safe in our streets. What ICE is doing is the opposite of that. They're making everyone unsafe. But if the people that are in the positions of power right now are being so irresponsible and won't address these issues and draw attention to them, then we will.
This is Sonia Christensen from the Idaho advocacy group 50501. She and her colleagues last evening pointed to Idaho leadership ordering state law enforcement to cooperate with ICE agents.
With ICE being what it is and our police working hand in hand with them, it's a real problem for Idahoans where we're not going to be able to really trust our police. This won't be the last time something like what happened in Minneapolis happens, as long as our elected leaders continue to abdicate their duty and shirk all responsibility to check this unmeasured executive power.
And casting another shadow over last evening's event, 2 people being shot and wounded in Portland by Customs and Border Protection officers on Thursday. People with ties to Venezuela are following news of Nicolas Maduro's capture with mixed emotions, hope for change, and uncertainty about what comes next. The Mountain West News Bureau's Maria Palma has a story for us this morning from northern Nevada on one of those Venezuelan immigrants that made their way to the U.S.
Freddy Mijares, a former journalist, left Venezuela more than 20 years ago after facing censorship, danger, and even physical violence during Hugo Chávez's presidency. He now lives in Reno and watched recent events unfold with strong emotions.
Venezuela was becoming very dangerous place for journalists. It was very, very hard to work as a journalist over there or express your thoughts about what was going on with the government of Hugo Chávez.
U.S. forces captured former Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro in an operation aimed at enforcing federal charges, a move that has major diplomatic, economic, and political consequences. Mijares got an early morning call from a friend and soon learned that Maduro had been captured. He and his wife were shocked, and she couldn't hide her joy.
So I went to Google. That was there. Like Nicolas Maduro was captured by the U.S. forces. And I couldn't believe it. I had to ask my wife, hey, what is the meaning of this? And she couldn't believe it either. She started like jumping of happiness. She was very happy.
He says seeing Maduro in U.S. custody feels like a turning point for his homeland, a country he describes as devastated and fractured. But he also shares deep uncertainty about what the future holds for Venezuelans. Many back home remain in shock, and U.S.-Venezuela relations are entering unknown territory that could shift oil markets and regional diplomacy.
I've seen the devastation of what it used to be a beautiful country, and in a quarter of a century, it has become just chaos. I've seen people dying there, families being separated, and that includes me.
Mijares says he is grateful for the safety and freedom of expression he has in the United States, even as he worries about friends and family still in Venezuela and what comes next for the nation he once called home. I'm Maria Palma.
In sports, the Boise State men's and women's basketball teams are on their home court this weekend. Tomorrow afternoon, the women's basketball team hosts Colorado State. Then tomorrow evening, the Boise State men host Utah State, both games at Extra Mile Arena. The women are coming off a pretty good win over Air Force on Wednesday, but the men suffered a pretty bad 17-point loss on Wednesday, and head coach Leon Rice was not happy, labeling his team's performance on Wednesday as, his words, selfish and soft. They've got a chance at redemption tomorrow. And that is today's episode of The Connector. I'm George Prentice. We'll be back here Monday, but stay in touch with the news through the weekend. There's so much going on. Stay in touch at boisestatepublicradio.org. In the meantime, tell your friends and family about The Connector and how they can find it wherever they find their favorite podcasts. To you, thanks for listening.
How does AI even work? Where does creativity come from? What's the secret to living longer? TED Radio Hour explores the biggest questions with some of the world's greatest thinkers. They will surprise, challenge, and even change you. Listen to NPR's TED Radio Hour wherever you get your podcasts.